Coming up today, Korea launches a presidential council on science and technology to oversee the country's efforts to overhaul the R&D sector. Korea's export prices dropped in April, largely due to the strengthening Korean currency against the US dollar. Plus, more bloodshed in Iraq. A series of car bombings in Baghdad kill at least 93 people. The Islamic State militant group claims responsibility. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello, it's noon on Thursday, the 12th of May. You're tuned in to our midday newscast here on Arirang TV. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Broom. We are going to start at the top office this afternoon because Korea held its first meeting on science and technology at the presidential office of Cheongwade this morning in a bid to establish a control tower for the nation's science and tech strategies and enhance research. The Commission mainly aims to restructure research and development resources following a proposal by President Park Geun-hye earlier this year to ensure the country does not fall behind on the global stage. For more, we have our presidential office correspondent Song Ji-son on the line for us. So Ji-son, tell us more about how this meeting came about and how it actually went.
Good afternoon, Mark. President Park first proposed this meeting after the artificial intelligence computer program AlphaGo beat Korea's pro-Baduk player Lee Se-dol in March, stressing the need to foster related industries. But even before that match, Seoul was already in a nutcracker situation between high-tech countries and emerging economies, which are catching up fast with Korea's science and technology industry. Now, the government-led initiative will be led in a top-down manner, but private projects for research and development will be carried out from the bottom up, meaning they will reflect market demand so they can quickly adapt to fast-developing technologies. And another key goal is restructuring research and development resources, and there will be some major reforms for each project. Funding and other forms of support for all government-led projects will now be reviewed from the scratch to maximize efficiency. The government will also guarantee that scientists can only focus on their research instead of having to take on the kinds of administrative tasks and paperwork often requested by government officials. I'll be back with more updates in our later newscast. Back to you.
Thank you, Ji-son, for that report. Now, the presidential office has announced that President Park will embark on a three-nation tour of Africa this month to help Korean businesses secure deals in the mineral-rich continent. President Park departs on May 25th and she'll visit the capital cities of Ethiopia, Uganda and Kenya. In addition to summit talks in each of those countries, business forums will be held on the sidelines to help Korean companies enter those markets. In her first stop, Ethiopia, she will become the first South Korean leader to deliver a special speech at the African Union headquarters, expressing Seoul's vision for the continent. In all three countries, Seoul will launch an official development assistance project dubbed Korea Aid. It's a new service that provides mobile services such as ambulances for health checkups and even access to Korean cultural contents. President Park will then fly to Paris on a state visit for summit talks with French President Francois Hollande. Marking 130 years of diplomatic relations, the two countries will upgrade their comprehensive partnership. Korea's export prices fell for 2 months in a row in April due to the sagging $1 exchange rate. What's notable is that export prices retreated to the lowest level in 31 years. Park Jung-hong reports.
The drop in export prices is largely blamed on the strength of the Korean currency against the US dollar. In April, the US greenback traded at 1,147.5 won on average. This reflects an increase of 3.4% from the previous month, when a dollar was worth 1,188 won. As a result, this led to an overall slide in export prices. According to preliminary data from the Bank of Korea, the export price index came to 78.19 last month, down 3.4% from a revised 80.97 the previous month. What's more, it marks the lowest level since 1985. The price index represents changes in the value of Korean exports in terms of local currency, meaning the higher the index, the more lucrative the business. In terms of export items, outbound prices of agricultural and fishery products slipped 0.9% on month in April, which was the smallest decline. At the other end of the spectrum were DRAM semiconductors, tumbling as much as 10.8%. Import prices also suffered a setback due to the won's appreciation. They slipped 1.9% in April from the previous month. Park Jong-hong, Arirang News.
Now staying with economic news, and government-led measures aimed at slowing the explosive pace of mortgage lending in Korea were introduced earlier this year. And while they've proven relatively successful in curbing lending at the nation's biggest banks, some negative effects have emerged. Shin Se-min reports.
The government's introduction of tougher lending requirements was meant to control Korea's mounting household debt, but it has sparked some issues of its own. In February, the Financial Services Commission stepped in, ordering commercial banks to start screening mortgage applicants more carefully. Under the Commission's mandatory guidelines, banks are required to base their decision on a household's ability to repay the capital and the interest together. Before banks could lend money provided, they were confident the applicant could cover the interest alone. The move came as Korea's household debt reached an all-time high of $1.02 trillion in February, growing $104 billion in the space of a year. The Bank of Korea says the pace of mortgage loan growth from commercial banks slowed by $1.6 billion in the first 3 months of the year compared to the same period last year. However, loans taken from secondary-level financial institutions, where interest rates are generally much higher, hit $217 billion as of February, the highest figure tallied since the central bank started collecting related data in 2003. On top of that, the property market, which got a boost from a government-led stimulus package, appears to be in a downturn. In its latest report, the Korea Development Institute said home transactions dropped over 26% in the first quarter on year, below the 5-year average. Experts say purchasing sentiment was dragged down by the new lending guidelines. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
Russia says it will start to fully implement the UN sanctions on North Korea within 3 weeks from now. The action is expected to severely limit the economic cooperation between the two countries. Oh Jung-hee has a story.
Russia's foreign ministry has reaffirmed its intent to fully implement the UN sanctions on North Korea, adopted in March after North Korea's 4th nuclear test early this year. During an interview with Seoul-based Yonhap news agency, the Russian ministry said that a presidential executive order is now under review by government ministries, but they aim to wrap it up by Thursday at the earliest. The executive order stipulates the financial containment of North Korean money and a ban on imports of North Korean minerals within 90 days of the adoption of UN Resolution 2270 on March 2nd. Russia will close down and restrict the establishment of any new bodies affiliated with North Korean banks in Russia. It'll also prohibit the purchase of stakes in and financial transactions with North Korean banks. Russia will also stop importing minerals from North Korea, including coal, iron ore, and gold. However, the Najin Hassan project, a collaborative logistics project involving South Korea, North Korea, and Russia, is an exception. Russia will continue exporting coal through railways and ports in North Korea via the project. But overall, it is expected that economic cooperation between North Korea and Russia will largely decrease as Russia takes action to implement the sanctions. Oh Jung-hee, Arirang News.
Now, North Korea's historic Workers' Party Congress came to an end a few days ago, but the Hermit Kingdom is trying to keep the mood upbeat. But while the celebrations go on, life remains tough for the North Korean people as the regime tries to boost the economy amid heavy sanctions. Lee Min-young has more.
The curtain may have come down on North Korea's Workers' Party Congress, but it appears the country is still in a festive mood. On Wednesday, North Korea staged a concert to celebrate the once-in-a-generation event. topping the bill at the 10,000-seat stadium in Pyongyang, where the North's first all-women group, the Moranbong Band, as well as the Cheongbong Band. They sang the praises of the Workers' Party while footage of North Korea's recent achievements, such as the launch of a rocket which put a satellite in space, played on the background. Ever since the Congress wrapped up earlier this week, the North has spared no effort to celebrate the event, staging mass rallies and parades at Kim Il-sung Square. At a torchlight parade, North Korea hardened its stance on nuclear weapons by featuring slogans such as nuclear state, in a clear indication the regime has no intention of giving up its nuclear program. However, Pyongyang is constantly pressuring its people to further tighten their belts and yield achievements by staging work hard campaigns. Experts say it seems to be a move to revitalize the economy amid crippling international sanctions imposed on the North for its nuclear and missile provocations. Lee Min-young, Arirang News.
Now, South Korea's Wolsong No. 1 nuclear power reactor was automatically shut down Wednesday night after experiencing a technical problem. According to an official at Korea Hydro Nuclear Power on Thursday, there has been no radiation leak and the power generating station is stable. He added that they're currently looking into what caused this problem. The Wolsong No. 1 reactor is located in Gyeongju, over 300 kilometers southeast of Seoul. 3 separate suicide bomb attacks have hit Baghdad, leaving at least 93 dead and 161 injured, according to the latest media reports. The militant group that calls itself Islamic State is claiming responsibility for the blasts, which represent what is being described as the worst violence in the city this year. Hwang Ho-jun reports.
3 suicide bombings hit Baghdad on Wednesday. The deadliest blast occurred when a car bomb went off at a market in Sadr City, killing at least 64 people and injuring 87. Just hours later, 2 suicide bombers targeted police checkpoints in the districts of Katamia and Jamia, killing at least 29 and injuring 74. The Islamic State militant group has claimed responsibility for the bombings. The Sunni terror group, which controls a large part of northern Iraq and Syria, has been targeting Iraqi Shiites, and the attack points are known to be neighborhoods with large Shiite populations. Baghdad has been mired in turmoil, with the parliament unable to meet and the government divided into factions. People blame the government for failing to protect its people.
Many people were killed and you can see blood everywhere. There were poor people who are here to earn their living. Why did this happen? Can this corrupt government tell us why? The people are dying because of this government.
Iraq has been hit by 4 suicide bombings since January, killing about 250 local residents. Wednesday's attack is the deadliest one yet this year. Hwang Ho-jun, Arirang News.
Tax and email issues are turning up the heat on the U.S. presidential frontrunners. Presumptive Republican nominee Donald Trump is under fire for comments on his tax returns. Democratic frontrunner Hillary Clinton is catching some heat for the ongoing investigation into her emails. Ian Shin has the details.
Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. A day doesn't go by without seeing these 2 candidates in the news. The presumptive Republican presidential nominee had been saying for months that he would release his income tax returns for voters to examine. But on Tuesday, in an interview with the Associated Press, Trump reversed himself and said he won't do it. This, of course, earned him heavy criticism from a lot of people, including former Republican presidential candidate Mitt Romney, who says Trump's decision makes him disqualifying for a nominee. As usual, Trump took it to Twitter to backtrack on the statement, saying that he actually told the AP that he does plan to release the documents after an ongoing audit is complete. According to his lawyers, Trump's tax returns from 2009 have been under review by the Internal Revenue Service. Political analysts say that there's a good chance Trump won't have to release anything before the November election if he sticks to that reason. The likely nominee on the Democratic side, Hillary Clinton, who has turned her attention to the general election, hit Trump for being evasive. But she isn't clear of controversy herself. While she referred to the ongoing issues with her emails as a security inquiry, the FBI says it is now investigating the case. The FBI director said on Wednesday, however, that he wouldn't comment on whether the inquiry would be finished by November. Ian Shin, Arirang News.
Japanese auto giant Nissan is in talks with Mitsubishi Motors to own a controlling stake in the scandal-hit automaker. Sources say the deal is expected to be worth $1.8 billion and give Nissan an over 30% stake in its local rival. Mitsubishi admitted last month that it had been falsifying fuel economy data on at least 4 of its models. On Wednesday, Mitsubishi Motors announced more cars could be affected by incorrect mileage data, but it also said it was financially healthy and has enough cash to weather the storm. Analysts say compensation payouts could cost Mitsubishi over $1 billion, and it has already seen 40% or $3 billion knocked off its market value. The boards of the two companies are set to meet on Thursday for further discussions. Tesla Motors has chosen Korea's Hankook Tire as its main supplier for its newest car, the Model 3. The US automaker, which specializes in eco-friendly electric cars, finalized its deal with Hankook Tire in Los Angeles after comparing samples submitted by multiple global tire companies. Hankook Tire says it will provide the American company with tires specifically manufactured for the Model 3 that aim to minimize battery loss. The value of the contract has not been revealed, though. The Model 3, which you're looking at there, was unveiled in March and has since been pre-ordered by more than 400,000 people. It retails for $35,000 and can run over 340 kilometers with a single charge. Deliveries start in late 2017. And with that, we are going to drive off into the sunset ourselves. We'll be back with our next newscast that's coming up at 3 p.m. Korea time. So until then, goodbye.